Welcome back to the World Championship Series. Very impressed, Mr. Coleman, thank you very much. This is, of course, the Premier League. It's been happening now for the last couple of weeks, and we are nearing the end of the WCS Premier League round of 32. Over the last couple of days, we've had a lot of fun, we've had a lot of entertaining games, we've had a lot of emotion with all these players moving through, claiming tickets towards going to the season finals, representing their region, their country in Toronto, Canada. Of course, Lilbo was the first player that we saw advance here in Cologne, Germany, followed by Hydra, the season 1 finalist. And then, of course, yesterday was a fantastic group as well, where we had a really emotional day, especially for one player, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But it was the season 1 champion who took to the stage first, and he didn't look as dominant as he was meant to. He went through in second place, but yesterday was really all about one man. And of course, that was TLO, who went through in first place. And we know it meant a lot to him. Of course, you can see here on screen, he was very happy to go through in first place. And of course, we saw his brother, where he had a little bit of an emotional moment with his brother who traveled to see him play, and he was very happy to be able to advance in first place. And that brings us here to today, where we have a couple of groups remaining. Before we talk about that, I want to introduce you, of course, to the players / casters / awesome people to my left. Of course, it's Pig.
Hey. Thanks for having me once again. Tonight's going to be an amazing group, and I'm just looking forward to those games.
Yeah, it's going to be another great day. 2 more days less. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, Todd.
It's good to be here.
I like your new Artosis haircut, by the way. I've noticed over the last couple of days, but I didn't really mention anything about it.
Is that an Artosis haircut?
It's a little longer and a little more spiky than usual, Todd.
Okay, sure. I'll take that.
Let's have a look at the round of 32 groups then that we've had played over the last couple of weeks. As we've had an interesting, very unique and dynamic set of players that have gone through, representing so many different countries, starting from Group A all the way to where we saw Tilo go through in first place yesterday in Group F there, Pig.
Some really, really fantastic games so far. And so far here in the WCS Premier League in Europe, we've seen quite a few upsets. Players like Lilbo and TLO thriving ahead. They're going very, very, very well. Today, though, we are going to be looking at MaNa, Massa, Firecake and iaguz, and it's a group that's really up for grabs, and we've got players from all over the world here.
Yeah, all over the world looking to grab their place at the season finals, where we're getting closer and closer to finding out exactly who those 16 players are. We've got 12, and it's time to find another 2 players tonight. Before we look at the group this evening, let's take a look at the WCS standings to see exactly where today's players shape up against some of the best players in the world. Of course, live from Gumiho, there is the #1 player in the world and the player who has the benchmark to get in the top 16. We've got 2 players that played over the last couple of days that are within the top 16 in Portland Hydra. But tonight's a bit of a different set of players here, Pig, with MaNa, Firecake, Massa, and iaguz.
Absolutely. We can see these players are, they're not right at the bottom of the rankings by any means. They've all accumulated some points, but we haven't really seen that huge run to get a big number of points this year. Realistically, it's going to be very difficult for these players to crack into that top 16. And I think what their eyes are set on going forward is trying to get that ticket to Toronto. They want to get over there. They want to play on that stage. And maybe, just maybe, we could see one of them drive their way through to that finals and potentially maybe do that kind of last minute story running towards that top 16 in BlizzCon points.
All right, well, let's take our focus away from the WCS standings and let's put our focus on tonight's group, Todd. We have a very close group, I think it's safe to say. The skill level is pretty close between all 4 of them. Let's take a closer look at the players that will be playing exactly tonight, as Pig did mention a little bit before. MaNa, Massa, Firecake and iaguz. 3 out of the 4 players here are the only players left to carry their nation through to the season finals. MaNa, the last remaining Polish player. Massa, the last remaining Canadian after Kane lost very early on in this tournament in the round of 32. And iaguz, of course, the last remaining Australian.
I
Sorry
am
about
really
that,
looking
Biggs.
forward to
Sorry about
iaguz
that,
just picking up the mantle and driving his way home. iaguz historically did very well last year, and he made it through to the round of 16 in the final season of 2014. And I think today he's going to surprise some people. He's gone a little bit under the radar playing over there in the root house, but he has been practicing all day, every day. But he does have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, what do you think about this group, Todd?
Yeah, I think as you said, it's very open. It's up for grabs. There's no Korean player here, so it's only non-Korean players of about, I guess, the same level. Historically, I think MaNa and Firecake, especially on the European side of things, they've done probably better than guys like Masa or iaguz. Even though iaguz, as you said last year, had some good run, especially against Protoss. We saw some nice games from him. So, in terms of favorites. It's really hard to say, it really depends on, again, who's going to show up here on form or not.
But a great opportunity for the overall, most people looking at this, you look at Masa and iaguz as the players that aren't quite favored to go through. A great opportunity for him here on a big stage.
Yeah, definitely. Again, too, with the practice that they got to get, during the last few weeks, just for this, in a group like this, it can make all the difference in the world, and I hope for them they've prepared well.
All right, we'll come back to talk a little bit about the matchups in a little bit, but before we do that, let's take a closer look at a video of these 4 players.
The rivalry between Firecake and MaNa could take its course yet again in WCS. It started in this league and it will no doubt continue to thrive in WCS. Which player will get the upper hand this time? Joining the Europeans is the Canadian Masa and the last remaining Australian, iaguz. Both players have traveled today to Europe for the first time to compete. They find themselves in between a thriving rivalry. The European players will be looking to defend their positions for advancement to the season finals in Toronto, Canada against Masa and iaguz.
Some extra thoughts there from Clutch on our group tonight, but let's talk about these players. They're a great bunch of guys, actually. They're very friendly. iaguz is an awesome guy. You've known him for a very, very long time, as well as MaNa. We've all known MaNa for a long time, too. Very, very friendly guy. Great bunch of people, Todd.
Obviously, everybody on route is friendly. I used to be teammate with him. Definitely, a cool guy out there. And today, well, having to face each other here, I really wonder right now how well they are prepared and what builds they're going to be playing, because I think it could play a huge role in who advances it and who does well and who doesn't.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on these players that we have tonight, Pig?
I think we can't forget, we're talking a lot about these players, we're getting a big opportunity here, but I think we can't forget about MaNa being somewhat a favorite in this group, and historically he's been really, really powerful. He's been in a lot of round of 16s in WCS. He's such a solid performer, and I think he would feel like this is his group, and he's going to want to show his best games.
Last season, actually, MaNa, in the round of 32, he had a very impressive performance, I thought. Probably the best, if I had to name, out of all of these players in the last season.
And of course, here is Firecake. Next up, Jaedong having a great time in Germany. We'll be playing tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a lot of fun to see him play. Firecake tonight, though, is looking to continue, because he also, like MaNa, who has been performing very well recently, so is Firecake. I think Firecake's, safe to say, he's had the best 6 months of his career in StarCraft II.
Yeah, which is... if you think about it, in French tournaments, Lilbo and Marine Lord, they almost always beat Firecake or end up above him. But somehow in WCS, I don't know what it is about Firecake and WCS. He always seems to do well. He made the round of 16 quite a few times, and he's definitely looking to repeat that performance here.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll talk a little bit about Firecake, because he'll be our second match of the evening. But let's focus now on the first match. I know some of you in here can already see the players behind us. It's going to be MaNa versus iaguz. So... how are we looking at this? Is there you mentioned MaNa as the favorite of the group here. iaguz, you've also mentioned at the same time here, Pig. Looking at both of your arguments, Todd said MaNa's the favorite. You said that iaguz can surprise. Explain your arguments.
I think iaguz is a player who's there's not that much information out there in the community about him in his recent TvP, and I think he's a player who sometimes is underrated, but has historically shown some good performances when he has the opportunity on a stage like this. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. He's my Australian comrade. You know, I feel like I'm rooting for him. I remember the first time I ever went to a tournament. I traveled there side by side with iaguz, so my vision's a little bit coloured, but I've seen him play some really good TvP recently.
Yeah, I mean, the TvPs he's had success in, though, really came off from, pulling some SCVs and doing all that. I think MaNa is definitely, he knows that. He's going to be ready for that to some extent. So I definitely give an edge to MaNa here if he's done his homework, which I'm sure he has.
Well, let's talk about iaguz again for a little bit here then. Or before we go that, let's take a look at the map, Peter, before we talk about the players then. So we got Coda, Cactus, and Echo. Todd, as a Protoss player here, what do you think about these maps?
It's funny because I think they are the same ones that we saw in the rehearsal. Did they just change? They just changed.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, no Cactus. Okay. So, but there is Echo twice, so.
Okay, I guess you can't look at this too closely then. I don't think we'll be playing that map twice this evening.
I think we're going to play Echo and Coda most likely here because they are two of the most popular maps here out there right now. Much like, Overgrowth and King Sejong and Frost, like all these maps, they were like the household names that were played in each series. So, I mean, no surprise there with these maps being selected. And honestly, out of MaNa, I expect fairly straightforward and standard play, even though he's mixing it up a lot against Terran. He's proxying Stargates from time to time if he thinks he's not going to be scouted early on. Sometimes he's playing a little bit greedier or just standard in general. MaNa is somebody who's been doing a very good job across all matchups of mixing it up very well. Whereas for Terran, I think it's much harder to really cheese other than a Turax, which I don't think we're going to see.
Well, the first map here is Echo. We can take a closer look and talk to us about Echo then. For exact, Vanny is the second map here, and Coda is going to be the decider, just for clarification's sake. But Echo, how does it exactly play out between these two players? I mean, looking at the stats of this map within the WCS, even though it's small sample size, it has been Terran favored. Is this something that MaNa is going to have a bit of difficulty against with iaguz, or?
I mean, looking at these maps, like these are like the three ideal maps to play Protoss versus Terran on, just because the other maps are like very difficult to play on. I think for Protoss, this is my biased opinion. So being on Echo, it's going to be easier, I think, to take a third base than on some other maps, which should encourage, I think, even more standard play out of MaNa. And if he, again, he's done his homework, he thinks that there is a good chance that iaguz is going to be, pulling some SCVs and attacking into him with lots of Vikings. If he goes Blink and Colossus, a good thing he can do is just not take the gases on that third base, get a lot of gateways, make a lot of units, wait for the attack to come and crush it.
All right, well, let's start talking about the players then. Let's start with iaguz here. How much does it mean for you, for everyone at home? I know there's a lot of people staying up late, so thank you guys back in Australia for staying up for this, like 2 a.m. there right now for this first match, and obviously he's got to play a second one as well. How much does it mean for an Australian player to do well? You came to season 1, you got top 16, you went to the season finals. I mean, after that, and after completing the round of 32, what did you read on the internet? I mean, what was the feeling and the vibe you got from way back home in Australia?
You know, the Australian community is really tight-knit and very supportive of all our players, and it's something every Australian StarCraft player dreams of, is it getting a chance to come over and compete in these leagues. Looks like we are going to have a little bit of a match-off between the two Death Stares. Of course, MaNa known for his, iaguz maybe throwing a bit of a comical one in there as well. He's a really funny guy, actually. You know, sometimes iaguz comes off as a little bit gruff, but he's usually joking, being a little bit ironic, and he's one of my favorite personalities. He is a lot like you, actually,
he's
Todd.
Just like me. He looks grumpy, but he's a really nice guy. Look at this.
He's a really good player, and of course, he's going to be going up against MaNa there. Todd, you know a lot more about MaNa than me. You've been following him for many years here in the European scene.
Oh God, here we go again.
we all knew that was coming. It's okay.
We did. I mean, Todd, MaNa's been on such a good streak in the WCS. I mean, we might as well just... Yeah, this was going to happen, wasn't it? MaNa's been in the last couple of seasons, the last 3 seasons in a row, top 16 every time. The last time he didn't get top 16 was in October 2013. For a player that struggled over the last couple of years, he's got a lot of consistency back again.
Yeah, I agree. I think his practice really showed every time he came here in the round of 32, but just wasn't enough every time in the round of 16. It seems to be every time where he just... hits a wall. So if logically this continues here, he should be able to advance, but nobody's to be underestimated here in this group, and I hope we're going to see again the same performance from MaNa here, and a very solid one with some good macro play, some mixing up in the builds here and there.
All right. Well, one quick question for each of you. Todd, we'll start with you. Is MaNa the number one Polish player right now?
Is it a trick question? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
I think so.
And the question for you, is he the number one Australian player?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much for that, guys. Just wanted to check what you'd say with your question there, your answer. We're going to head to the commentary team for this first match of the evening. It's going to be, of course, Kalaris and Rotterdam. Take it away, boys.
A very humble pig answers a very loaded question. Thank you very much, Apollo, for those guys at the desk. That was fun.
Now I just want to see Apollo ask a question like, Todd, is Firecake the number one French player? No, it's me.
Perfect. We all know Todd will definitely say that one. Right, well, so we're going on to Echo here for our first game in this best of three. As, you know, MaNa, for me, coming into this group, I see him as the favourite. Obviously, he didn't really have the best start to his WCS career in the entirety of WCS, but since then, he's gained a lot of traction.
No, absolutely. I think if you look at the history of all four of these players, MaNa is by far and away the most accomplished players. He's been very successful, even in the early years of StarCraft II. 2012, 2013, those were definitely the glory years. 2014 wasn't an unsuccessful year, but he wasn't really able to continue, you know, the upwards trend that he was going in. 2015, it's starting to look a little bit better. He had a very difficult match in Challenger. I think that's worth mentioning, where in Game 5, he was almost dead and buried, but it's like, well, you know, I'm Protoss, as long as I have Colossus and Archons, let's just give it one more go. And suddenly, you know, 180 supply of bio from Hero Marine did melt, and he was able to advance. He had to work very hard for it, but Hero Marine is a very strong opponent. It's not someone that you want to run into in Challenger. So the fact that MaNa is here once more, also coming off the back of a round of 16 finish in Season 1, I think MaNa is looking quite good. I'm excited to see him today. He's been streaming a little bit more lately, and I love watching his stream. I think he has a very entertaining playstyle, and I think he's going to show us lots of good stuff today.
All right, well, let's get into things then, as we have our first series of the day here for the World Championship Series Group G. Spawning up to the top left-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss representing Team Liquid. It is MaNa. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our red Terran representing Root Gaming. It's iaguz.
Also known as the Gimli Terran. We just gotta go there, as that's the nickname that Karma gave him a long time ago. It's funny, because obviously the Australians are very familiar with iaguz, and even in the foreign scene, most people know about him by now, but I don't think a lot of people are aware of the fact that iaguz has been going to international events since 2011. Like, that's a long time ago. Just to put things in perspective, the very first time that I met iaguz, that was a tournament which Idra won, and Elfie was in the final.
Oh, wow. Guangzhou?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That is a long time ago. So he's been around. Funnily enough, iaguz also played a TvP in his Challenger match. Of course, he had Challenger in Southeast Asia, which you could say is a little bit easier than the one in Europe, as he went up against the Australian pros player called Blisk. He was able to win 3-0. And I think iaguz looked okay, but it's going to have to be better, and it's going to have to be a little bit less predictable as well. Every single game it was Reaper into Command Center, into a Widowmine drop, and that stuff is good, but I wouldn't do it 3 games in a row, especially not against a player like MaNa, because he will try to hard counter you, and he will try to outsmart you if you become too predictable.
MaNa's already starting things off by building little walls around his assimilators here, maybe end up choking it off to the left-hand side with Cybernetics Core to make sure that he's got like nice room in SimCity to block off Reapers and then try and save probes, etc. But his probe is already over the other side of the map and was looking around here for a little while to see what it can find, and for now he's just seen a pretty standard opener here from iaguz.
Yes, every now and then a Terran player will bust out a Command Center first. I think iaguz has done that quite a few times as well. So MaNa wants to make sure he's not playing against that, and if he is, well then let's not waste any resources at home and just drop that Nexus as quick as possible. But he knows by now that this is going to be a Reaper opening, most likely into a Command Center. Anything else from this point would be very weird and unorthodox.
Yeah, and I've got to go back to what you were saying at the beginning of this game. Oh, a nice sneaky probe there, gets out from that SCV. But you were totally right in saying that, you know, MaNa's game against Hero Marine was super close. Both times in Challenger, they've gone very close, toe-to-toe. Is this going to be a full block?
I don't really get it. Like, what is MaNa doing? Why is he sending out 2 probes? He even had the Zealot queued up for the longest amount of time. I felt if he cancelled the Zealot a little bit quicker, he could have already dropped the Nexus. Not really the end of the world, but this Nexus could have gone down a tiny bit quicker. But he cancelled the Zealot in the end. He's going to start off with the Mothership Core. But sorry, James, continue.
The thing is that I thought MaNa was, casting that game myself, I thought MaNa was dead. But being able to come back from that kind of jaws of adversity was quite impressive. You know, Hero Marine has been rising up in the European scene quite heavily, and I would say I would put him on the same skill level as iaguz. So iaguz is going to have to be very, very careful here against MaNa.
I would even say that I think that most people in the European scene would say that Hero Marine is better than iaguz. Even though iaguz has had a success in WCS, let's not forget that legendary group, Season 3 2014. He was in a group with Jim and 2 Koreans, Alicia and Nesty. And everybody's like, well, you know, if iaguz can win a couple maps here, that would be great. He won the group, and that was great. And even in Season 1 of 2015, iaguz got very close to advancing to the round of 16. He won his first series of the day, and he lost the last series of the day against Maxhead in a Game 3 on That was very long. So, you know, that would have almost been super impressive if iaguz would make back-to-back appearances to the round of 16. Today he's going to have to work very hard for it. I think this is a tough group with 2 very well performing and strong European players in it. It's not going to be easy, but let's see how he's going to do. So far, everything is in the line of expectation. As we saw the factory at home, we see the Widowmine follow-up. Like, it's very obvious that iaguz loves this build, and it's a very good build. You know, you see it even in Pro League being used all the time, but I don't think you should always do it.
Spots the Twilight Council, and to be honest, I don't think either of us was expecting much else than a Twilight Council coming out from MaNa, because he does love his Blinkstalkers, and he's actually not going down that path. Wow.
Now, he does love his Blinkstalkers, you are 100% right about that, but he's going to open up with a Dark Shrine instead, and most likely the Robo will get dropped. Like, MaNa is the type of player that can definitely play standard, but he likes to switch it up just to, you know, make that bridge from 2 to 3 base protos a little bit easier for yourself by throwing off the game, by not giving Terran all the freedom in the world. iaguz spots that Twilight, but I think if I'm iaguz, I'm thinking of Blinkstalkers. I'm not necessarily thinking about Dark Templars just yet.
Yeah, he may end up taking some precautions for it himself, just knowing that there is the potential of it coming along, but it's far less common. Far less common, so got to be careful.
There is a probe, I believe, on the south side of the map, and it would be phenomenal for iaguz if he can somehow catch a glimpse of this probe. Well, if that Marine spots the probe, I really... Okay, that could still be... Okay. Is he going to blink Stalker with me, or is this something else? This is not good for MaNa, though. You don't want your pylon to be spotted in this phase in the game.
If it was Blinkstalkers here for iaguz, wouldn't the Blinkstalkers be at the front trying to like poke a little bit?
Yeah, it would also be a little later. You would already see some sort of map presence. I think iaguz knows what's going on now. He has already dropped the engineering bay, and I wouldn't be surprised to see at least 1 turret going down. That's a safety turret. But this is a good start for the Australian Terran, a very solid start.
Blink now starts. Another pylon down the bottom left.
Did he cancel the dunk? No, he didn't cancel.
No. Oh well. That'll be in his back pocket for a little bit now.
Oh well, MaNa was supply blocked because he lost his pylon as well, and now the missile turret is going down. Because I guess like, alright, even if this was still Blinkstalkers, then by now I should have definitely seen some sort of Blinkstalker play on the map. There should be Stalkers trying to pressure, trying to intercept the medevac. I don't see anything, and most of the time when you don't see anything, then it has to mean Dark Templars.
Yep. Quite literally, because they are invisible, so...
You're so funny, James. Oh my god, cracking me up over here.
Well, you know, he's bunkered down. He's all very, very well defended back at home. And I think he actually sent an SCV. Oh no, it's actually a Marino heading over to the 3rd base. So looking to clear that out and make sure nothing's going to go on. Stark Templar didn't do too much at the front either.
Nope. I do think it's very smart by MaNa that he didn't just click it in and sacrifice it. Now at least he has some sort of map presence with it. But this is not nice. You don't open up with Dark Templars to kill absolutely 0 SCVs and force out a single turret only at the front. If I was iaguz, I would definitely get another turret later on, because how often don't we see a War Prism on the map as well and then dropping Dark Templars into the main base? You don't want to find yourself in a position where you don't have any sort of detection. This is a drop. You shouldn't even go for it. And I mean, he wanted to see what's going on there. He doesn't have the vision we have. But the moment you see 5 Stalkers and most likely an Observer as well, just send that medevac back. Don't sacrifice it for nothing.
And Double Forge on the way for MaNa, so this has just become so common nowadays.
That was a misclick, by the way, by iaguz. Did you see that? There is a Mew in his natural that was not doing anything. Okay, now he fixed it. Maybe he thought it was about to expire. I was like, nope, that's a fresh Mew.
And there goes +1 starting now as well here for MaNa, with extra +1 armor on the way as well. But yeah, iaguz, I think he already has his +1 just about to finish up on the other side of things. And he's got quite the force, but I I mean, what can he really do against Protoss at the moment on only 2 base?
Yeah, on only 2 bases, not that much. So some people may wonder, like, why is MaNa going for double forts? It's been kind of falling out of style. You don't see it super often. It's mostly because he also opened up with Dark Templars. If you open up with Dark Templars, but you do absolutely no damage, if he goes up to 3 bases right now, he's going to spread himself way too thin. He won't have units in all locations to defend against the Terran aggression that will be coming your way. So you just got to cut your losses and be like, all right, I can't go up to 3 bases when I want to, but what I can do is go for double forts and at least have good upgrades.
Oh, nice little pickup there.
I don't really, that was great by MaNa, of course, but I don't really understand this sometimes from Terrans. Like, okay, you're playing against a Protoss that has opened up with Dark Templars, has done absolutely no damage. He's sitting back on 2 bases. He's going for double forge. I'm not sure if he knows about the double forge, but he has a Widow Mine in the 3rd base as well. So he knows that MaNa is not on 3 bases. And as tempted as it may be to sometimes drop, it's not always the right decision. Like, dropping a 2-base Protoss is very difficult because he's not doing anything else, so obviously he'll be ready to receive those drops. And right now, as iaguz, as uncomfortable it may be as a Terran player, you should just something be like, all right, well, I can't drop him right now. I'm just going to wait until he actually wants to go to 3 bases, until he will move out, because then there will be opportunities for me to drop. But you can't drop a 2-base Protoss that's only defending, because it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while. He's keeping good eyes on his opponent's 3rd base as well. I mean, both players are now that I look at things. With the Dark Templar, there's actually a missile turret being added on over there. So eventually he'll be able to spot it unless MaNa is just going to start cleaving that down and bringing it away. But he does need to respond because that Dark Templar is currently on hold command. There we go. He will move it straight away to start working on that SCV down there.
We had a small pause. As you guys can see, there are a few lag spikes. We have tried to unpause it, but unfortunately there's still a little bit of lag. So we apologize for this small hold up. Hopefully it won't go for too long. I must say in the previous days, everything has been running very smooth, almost no issues whatsoever. Now, of course, I don't want to jinx it, but this is one of the very first pauses we've seen in 3 days of non-stop action.
It's a good job this table is made out of wood because unfortunately, for now, we have this little pause. We will have to just see if our referee can solve this issue, but it could take a little while. It could take a little while, Roddy. So if you look at the group as a whole, obviously I think MaNa stands out a lot to people as one of the big favorites here in the group. But who do you consider to be kind of just down the peg a little bit there and also another favorite here?
I do think Firecake. Like, Firecake has been performing very well over the last few months, and even in the round of 16, you know, the offline event in Portugal, I think he made a very good impression. He played some very solid games against Polt, you know, the guy who actually ended up winning the whole thing. He was in a very tough group because I think Hydra, no, who was the other guy that won that group, the 2nd group stage?
In Firecake's group, it was Firecake, MaNa, Hydra, and...
so Hydra was in the round of 16 group as well?
Yes, he was, because he beat MaNa. It was that very close game on Vani Research Station.
Yes, that is correct. So, you know, that was a tough group for Firecake, but it was still a result I think he could be pretty proud of, and especially the way he played. But, you know, I've made this mistake in the past, Kalaris. I've underestimated iaguz before, and he won that group in Season 3 of 2014, and even in Season 1 2015, he came very close to advancing. He's been in the US for a while, I believe, you know, practicing with the Root Boys in Northern California, and I think he's feeling good. He's obviously not coming here to just like, oh, well, let's participate and see how well I can do. Like, no, he's been putting in the effort, so he wants to advance as well, and obviously he's confident that he can advance. Because looking at this group, this is not an easy group for any of these guys, but there is not a Polt or a Hydra in the group that's like, okay, well, I'm basically fighting for the 2nd spot. You know, who's going to win this group, you could say is up for grabs, but MaNa is the favorite, and I would say Firecake a close 2nd.
And this season so far, Europe players qualifying through into Premier have done pretty well, aside from, unfortunately, our 2 Zergs, who would have thought it, Snoot, and then obviously a Laser, unfortunately, going out just before. But other than that, Europe has got a really, really good advance rate. So MaNa and Firecake coming in here, looking primed to go through. But still, you know, we're going to see iaguz put up a good fight. Massa is someone I don't know as much about, but I'm sure you do.
You know why that is, James?
Why is that?
Because, you know, I've been in Europe for 2 months now. I've obviously increased the overall skill on the European ladder.
Oh, I see, I see.
I'm just kidding. Masa is a player that, even though I have known him for a long time and I've seen him play for a while, he's never been a guy that's gone to a whole lot of tournaments. I think this is actually one of his very first foreign tournaments, as he had to wait until a few things were sorted out, until he could start traveling. But Masa is one of these guys, even though you don't see him that frequently. Anyone in North America knows he's damn good. He's won so many online tournaments, even a few very big ones a while ago. So he's definitely not to be underestimated. But he's a little bit of a wild card going into this group because Masa has never traveled to Europe to play StarCraft.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting when you get those kind of players that come along to, especially the European scene. Obviously, we're focused heavily on the European scene over here, and we get to see a lot of the ins and outs of that. But Masa in Canadian rankings is also, pretty high up there as well. Obviously, they have really good players like Hook over there. Scarlet is taking a bit more of a slower approach at the moment to the game. So does Masa now rival for #1 in Canada?
If he has a remarkable run over here, then he could make a very good case for it. But he needs to prove himself a little further. Hawk has a great achievements to his name, and we know that he's still capable of doing very well. Like even in season 3 of 2014, he made it into the top 8. People often forget about something like that because they just look at 2015 season 1. It's like, oh well, Hawk lost against Stardust, or in season 2, and season 1 didn't really go his way. But it's not even that long ago that Hawk was among the best 8, and we still have Kane. Kane had a great run in WCS season 1 of 2015. There are a lot of WCS seasons being played, guys. This league has been going on for a while. So Masa definitely needs more than just one good result. But imagine if he would win this group or come second and then does well in Toronto as well. Like how great would it be for the Canadian fans to cheer for Masa in Toronto? Like that would be great. That's definitely a story to tell, and that is something that all players dream of, but especially Masa playing in front of your home crowd. Like we've seen it a long, long time ago when Hawk played in front of a Canadian audience in NASL season 3. That stuff was great.
Yeah, it was. Well, still just the small issues continue on here. Just to make sure everything is trying to go as smoothly as possible, I've dropped out of the game. I don't know if it was me or not, but I'm trying to help the situation out as much as possible. So hopefully things do get rectified pretty soon. It's probably a little bit frustrating for the players, obviously, but it's the start of the day. It's the starting game. I don't think there'll be, not much damage has really been done either way here. So I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, it should be all right. Of course, this is a moment where we can't talk about the game that was been currently going on for too much, because every now and then the players will put off their headset and we don't want them to hear anything they're not supposed to hear.
That's true.
So we just talk about previous results, and we can talk about tomorrow as well, as of course we've already had 2 previous days of WCS action. And I think especially yesterday was one of the more fun round of 32 groups. You never know what you're going to get when you look into a round of 32. Some groups are going to deliver, some groups they will go as expected. Sometimes we have great games, sometimes it's a little mediocre. But yesterday it was awesome in so many ways, surprises, and I think the quality of the games was great. And what to think about tomorrow, James?
All right. Well, tomorrow is going to be fantastic.
Are you going to lose it again, James?
I'm hoping not. But with Elfie and Haas, anything can happen pretty much. All right, guys, we're going to go to a short break here at the World Championship Series. And when we're back, we shall have, obviously, game at #1 between MaNa and iaguz. welcome back, guys, to the World Championship Series, as it looks like we may have fixed the issues here in the game between MaNa and iaguz in game number 1. I think we'll be getting back into it pretty soon as these two are geared up. As we said before, not too much has happened thus far in this game in a direct engagement sense, but small decisions have been made here and there.
Yeah, no, but if I was iaguz, I'd be feeling pretty damn good about this game so far. Your opponent has opened up with Dark Templars. He hasn't done any damage whatsoever. You just cleaned out that DT. You have your third command center in place. You're going to knock down these cooling towers. Oh, no! Oh, for a second I thought the Widowmine was going to be squashed.
I think if it had been rooted, burrowed, it would have died, but because it's not, it gets like pushed out of the way, right? Unless it's like trapped in against a lot of units. But anyway.
So I would feel quite okay. Of course, he did lose that medevac. There is 1-1 upgrades right now. This is the moment where MaNa feels comfortable going up to 3 bases. So why is there a Reaper in production?
Cool stuff, I guess. It's like QXE of old.
No. That has to be a misclick. Perhaps a little bit distracted by all these pulses, but
Maybe.
one Reaper is not really the end of the game. If he stims forward now, he should be able to get a cancel on this next. Actually, I'm very surprised MaNa moved his units that far out of position. Stim is going to be used. No cancel, right? Was that a cancel?
Don't think so.
I don't think it was. No, look at the amount of resources lost.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great then. Actually, for
Crazy.
iaguz, that is really, really good.
Wow, what a pickup. What a pickup. And now, obviously, iaguz is just going to position himself still in an aggressive manner across the map, and he doesn't necessarily have to take a direct engagement, but any little step he can have to slow things down is always nice.
Yeah, this is just a moment, I think, as a Terran player, you just want to macro up a little bit further, get an overwhelming army. He's going to have 2 star points. We all know that iaguz loves pulling the boys. In that way, he's a very traditional Terran. But this is a moment where I definitely wouldn't mind to see him pull the boys. There's no way MaNa's going to get Storm anytime soon, since he's been on double Forge. A double Widowmine drop will go down in the main base. Well, won't really kill a whole lot, but I guess these mines didn't have much of a purpose anymore.
Yeah.
To get rid of them.
He didn't care too much, just going to go straight in there, and there was all that photon cannon to be able to clean that up. So, with all of this, iaguz takes a lot of inspiration from Bomber. He's very vocal about watching every single one of Bomber's games and being able to play it out. I mean, can he execute in a very similar fashion? I'm not going to say exactly the same level because it's Bomber, right? But is something like that SCV pull something that he can execute very strongly here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's done it a lot in the past, even when he won his group in Season 3 of 2014 against players like Alicia. He used a couple SCV pulls earlier this year when he was in the group with Maxset. He also used an SCV pull, and he used it in the right moment. And I feel this is one of... He's dropping a Ghost Academy, though, and that I'm a tiny bit surprised by. That gives me the idea maybe he doesn't want to go for an SCV pull. He scanned before here, by the way. That's worth mentioning. He scanned before, so he's convinced that there is no observer over here, but there is an observer. So MaNa's already using, moving most of his... I thought he was moving Blink Stalkers into his natural, because he saw a couple units being picked up. That Reaper being very annoying. MaNa has absolutely nothing over here. These cannons finishing up just a tiny bit too late. These Vikings are very exposed, so I'm not sure how I feel about this engagement from iaguz.
He's going to have to back off. The Colossi were in too protected a position to actually really deal with that. That being said, he was doing a bit of damage over here towards the natural base and pulling the Protoss army way out of spot. He's going to be up to Dark Templar and Zealot to actually warp in and clean that up, but this hasn't really done a whole lot with the evacuation.
No, it definitely looks like he's been doing more damage than he actually has. He's been losing a lot of bio units, he's been losing a lot of very expensive Vikings, and he hasn't killed a whole lot. If we take a look at the units lost resource step now, we saw before MaNa lost a lot more. Right now, well, different story. 4,800 against 3,200, and he doesn't have any ghosts yet out, and he lost the majority of his Vikings, and MaNa has 4 Colossus. MaNa might actually just take a game-winning fight over here.
Yeah, with those 5 Colossi, it's very difficult to actually rival them. He's got 5 Ghosts about to pop, and maybe if he can blanket everything and then swing in with a fantastic, perfect engagement, but those force fields already pinning everything out. He doesn't even have enough medevacs over there to even lift all of this away, so MaNa is in an amazing spot.
There's still 2 bio units in the main base being a little bit annoying, but I definitely like MaNa's position. He also took out that Fort base. There was no cancel. Now Fortune's going down over here. I guess this is why a lot of those players love this map. He also has a Mothership Core here. He's going to drop a Time Warp. Has to be a tiny bit careful because he doesn't have a whole lot of Vikings anymore protecting these Colossus. MaNa perhaps overstepping his boundaries a tiny bit.
Bio getting on top of those Colossi and killing them off without the Vikings even really doing much at all. MaNa loses his entire force because of that. He just didn't have any tanking capability in front of it.
This has been a very, very, very scrappy game on either side, to say the least. Now there are a bunch of probes as well in the middle of the map. iaguz lost a lot of SCVs there. He lost his port command center, but he completely reset the Colossus count. and that is something that's very problematic because there is no storm, and you know, unless you have an overwhelming amount of zealots are not that great against stimmed bio in this phase in the game. His upgrades are okay, but I'm very worried now. I'm not sure if MaNa is going to be able to defend against his army unless iaguz is just going to decide to throw this game back, as this has been a little bit of a game of throw so far.
Yeah, he's going to try and move on again here. There isn't that much splash damage. 2 Archons at the front, getting quite a few good volleys off, and the one Colossus, though, does end up falling. If he can stim back and try and kite this, it could be okay, but that's still quite a lot of zealots, and those 2 Archons are not dying.
No, actually, MaNa did very well over here again. That Colossus did die in the end, but that took 4 or 5 Vikings down. So now iaguz has kind of returned the favor again.
Yeah.
This has been a very wild first game of the day. This is not what I was expecting, Claris.
No, not at all. Just really, really back and forth. 3-3 started for iaguz, and he did take a little bit of economy damage from that initial push from MaNa anyway, so he's catching up a little bit. Of course, he does have mules, and that will equalize things out a little, but MaNa's kind of getting steam again.
5 ghosts on the way right now. It seems like iaguz is convinced that MaNa is about to get High Templars and get Storm out. Ooh, I was very worried those 2 medevacs were going to be intercepted. MaNa's going up to 4 bases. He has still not dropped the Templar Archives. I think as long as he's losing Colossus, he's just going to rebuild Colossus because he's kind of leaving iaguz in the dark. And iaguz is like, all right, I know Protoss players. They will show up with Storm soon, right? Well, no, actually not. And of course, ghosts are not completely useless. They have reasonable damage against Zealots. EMPs are great against Archons. EMP is always worth it to have, but it's pretty obvious that he's counting on High Templars to show up soon, but there are no High Templars.
I'm trying to sneak around this army for the most part, and I think he's realized that he may be being drawn a little bit too far. This double medevac now drop, making a movement in towards this natural base, even dropping the scan to see if there are any Dark Templars there that he has to clean up. But has to pick up and get out of the way with just one of the medevacs.
This has been a slugfest, man. There's so much dying on both sides. Both players definitely playing very reckless. Nice EMP being used over there in the middle of the map as he spots that observer, so you don't have to scan. Taking away some of the eyes that MaNa had on the map. Now the Templar Archives is going down. Of course, you know, it's never a bad decision to get High Templars, no matter how many goals your opponent has. Getting a few High Templars out, if you just land 1 or 2 storms, it's already been worth it. And if you're on 4 bases and you're going to get your 7 and 8 assimilator running soon, there's no reason for you not to have High Templars.
And another observer pick off. Harder to actually EMP that one when it's moving along, because you don't want to EMP your own ghost or something like that as well. That would be a bit of a disaster. So Joss drops the scan, cleans that one up, and behind this it's 3-3 starting now for MaNa, but vastly inferior in timing compared to what we're seeing from iaguz.
A small drop going down in the main base as well. I'm not sure how much there is over here for MaNa to defend. Well, he had a few Zealots, he had a Dark Templar, so that's going to be good enough. I'm surprised. I really felt iaguz had a window of opportunity earlier in this game to just go up to, let's say, 12, 14, 16 Vikings, then pull the boys and go for it. Instead, he attacked with 5 Vikings and he lost pretty much his entire army. Since then, this game has just been very wild. EMP is connecting with the majority of these Protoss units, but I'm not sure if the Viking count is high enough.
Does he have enough on the ground to actually tank for this, though? He doesn't really have that many more Zealots trying to open around of them, but they could have on top of these Colossi now, and one of them ends up falling. The second one could end up dying off very, very quickly if he doesn't babysit it completely.
A few Marauders still on the left side as well, messing with the AI of that Colossus, leaving it exposed for the big army on the right side. It actually seems that the Australian Terran iaguz is going to be able to pick up game number 1 over here.
Yeah, it seems so. He's on the 3rd base, focusing down that Nexus. That will fall very, very quickly from this point on. But with no splash damage here for MaNa, it's all but done. I mean, there's really not much more way he can fight back against this.
I mean, he did just have 3-3 ready when that fight started, so he had an upgrade advantage. 3-3 against 2-2, that definitely matters a lot. But I was very worried that he did. Oh, he's going to see a probe. That probe kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
So iaguz is going to see, he's like, oh, a full base with 23 probes. That's lovely. Let's stim one more time. Let's take out this Nexus. MaNa knows that he can't afford to lose this Nexus, so he's going to try to make a desperation hold over here, but there's just not enough Protoss and way too much Terran.
Colossus at the back ends up falling, and that means everything else is going to tumble. GG, game number 1 goes to iaguz here, and he is happy with that one. The nod of confirmation. As well, it was quite the back and forth game. I think really anybody could have taken that in multiple situations.
Yeah, MaNa was in a great position after that first big attack by iaguz, where I felt if he would have waited a little bit longer and go for an SCV pull, I think he would have been in a great position. Yeah. But instead he just kind of lost all his Vikings, lost a lot of bio. Then MaNa was in a phenomenal position. He had 4 Colossus, he was marching across the map, and then he was even dropping pretty good force fields. I feel really using the way that Echo is designed and why so many Protoss players love it and so so many Zergs in particular don't like this map against Protoss. But then he just went all the way in. Of course, those cooling towers were knocked down as well, so he was forced to leave in the same way. And then suddenly there were a few units coming from the north side, and the Colossus, they were just really exposed from the right side. The pylon wasn't that close, so he didn't have enough zealots anymore.
Yeah.
And suddenly he lost all of his Colossus, and then it was anybody's game again. A very wild game, I would even say a very scrappy game. I think one of the more scrappy games we've seen in the round of 32.
Yeah, definitely. It looked that way. All right, guys, we're going to go to a short break, and when we're back, we're going to have game number 2 between MaNa and iaguz. All right, welcome back to the World Championship Series as we saw Game 1 unfold between MaNa and iaguz in quite a sporadic fashion. It was a bit all over the place. I think now, though, them finding their footings, I'm expecting a bit more kind of precision into the next game.
Yeah, I'm expecting to be a little more solid, especially from MaNa's side. Just a few unforced errors on his side. And overall, of course, he got a little bit unlucky with opening up Dark Templars and just nothing going his way in that regard. But he still got himself in a very good position later on. And he just made an attack in which he way overcommitted. Now, yeah, killing 25 SUVs, that's great. Losing 3-4 Colossus and the majority of your Stalkers and, you know, not having a Storm Tech to fall back on, that's not that great. And we know that MaNa is capable of playing so much better than he did in that game. So I think it's going to be fine for him.
Yeah, I should think so too. MaNa, obviously, he's no kind of stranger to those comebacks. I mean, even in the series that we've seen in the past against Hero Marine in Challenger, especially Season 1, he was able to make a fantastic comeback. But now we get into game number 2 between iaguz and MaNa. As Team Liquid so far in this tournament, not done too badly. Unfortunately for Snoot, though, was eliminated here in the round of 32. As we have spawning down to the south, it is our Team Liquid representative. It is MaNa. A lot of people argue him to be the favorite here in this group, but he now goes up against the Australian up to the northern position as our red Terran. It is Root iaguz.
I think Vani is a map which a lot of Terran players are quite pleased with. It's obviously very great to drop in a natural. It can be tricky for Protoss as soon as you're on 3 bases to defend all locations. There's quite a bit of service area, and even if you have like 1 or 2 cannons here in High Templar, then they often just drop in the corner of your main base, and you're like, oh damn it, now I'm still out of position. But I wouldn't go as far to say that as a Protoss player I would veto it. There are a few Protoss players who did veto it. It was Liubao the other day, I believe, who vetoed Vani and rather played on Cactus Valley. Now, I think that's a very bold decision, to say the least. For MaNa, that's not the case. He has vetoed Cactus Valley, and we're just going to play on Vani. I'm not expecting anything different when it comes to the opening of iaguz. I think once more it's going to be a Reaper into an Expand, into a Command Center. Try to see if he can drop a Widow Mine or 2 here and there, but... well, actually... nice, Gaslit. What is he going to do? What?
Gasless.
What? Maybe he's going to open up with 2 Rexes over here?
I guess... I think I'm looking at him thinking just get racks into command center at this point.
Most likely he'll do, so just a traditional gasless expand, which of course is a little better for your economy. And I do like that actually, because you know I watched his other games and it was 3 games in a row. It was the same opening. On the first game here, he went for that opening, which is a very common one. But it's good to switch things up a little bit. And the tradition, this is a Wings of Liberty build by any means, you know, like this Marine into command center. But this is a very strong economic build. I'm curious about his follow-up. Some maps, I think it's very good to go back to the good old 3 racks after you drop a command center, but I don't think he's going to do that over here.
And MaNa, if I recall correctly, against Hero Marine on this particular map, he actually went for a very aggressive Blinkstalker build to try and kind of catch his opponent off guard, and eventually it did end up working. So is that something that MaNa can employ here against iaguz? Do you think iaguz will present weaknesses with the build that he's chosen thus far, or will he be on lockdown, do you reckon?
I think he's going to be fine. Let's just see how he's actually going to follow this one up.
Okay.
Because this second rack's going down right now. Like I said, some of the maps in the current map pool, think of Inferno pools. I know we don't see it a whole lot. But the reason why a lot of Protoss players hate Inferno pools is because you have to worry about mines. And then suddenly it's a 3 racks opening and they knock on your front door with a lot of Marines and Marauders early on. Whether they have stim or not, it doesn't really matter. You need to drop a photon overcharge immediately. And then the next time you're going to need 7 force fields to force field the ramp. But on Vani, a single force field will already keep all of these units at bay. So maybe iaguz was anticipating some sort of crazy aggressive play from MaNa. You know, there is a chance that MaNa goes for a lot of Blink Stalkers, as some Protoss players do like it over here. But being aggressive with 3 racks on this map, I'm not sure if that's the best decision, because, like I said, a single force field will keep all of the units out of your main base.
Yeah, difficult to get in. Twilight Council is going to go down for MaNa here once again behind this. If it was me in MaNa's shoes, as he does love those Blink Stalkers, I would expect that to be the go-to. I mean, he's already got a Stalker out of the map. He's getting another one as well. So it looks a little bit more like a Blink play here.
No, absolutely. But then there are still many ways to play Blink, right? Like you can open up with Blink just to control the pace of the game and defense, snipe medavacs, and just sit back yourself. Or you can make Blink as quick as possible and then wipe in a few more Stalkers and try to be aggressive on the other side of the map. But he's going to have a very hard time, no matter how good this map may be for Blink Stalkers, to be aggressive with. Against 3 racks and a bunker now on top of the ramp as well, there is very little chance that he's going to be able to achieve anything. So if I was MaNa, I would just, make a few Stalkers, then just try to snipe. He's chrono boosting Blink. He's gonna be aggressive. Maybe iaguz just expected this all along, and he's having an absolute phenomenal read over here on MaNa.
Yeah, maybe, because he's going to have plenty of units out. Stim is on the way, which is very important. The tech lab is kind of quite far away from where the Blink Stalkers would be coming in, unless they were coming in from the very south-hand side here. But then you would expect there to be some kind of force there warding off those Stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, if he would decide to go for that, then he's going to end up losing 4, 5, 6 Stalkers in the process. I don't think that he's going to be able to do something with it. Now, he still doesn't have to go absolutely crazy with the Blink Stalker count, but the fact that he's chrono boosting out Blink multiple times over here in a scenario where he doesn't even have his second base fully saturated, now it is, but before it wasn't, which means that all of these chrono boosts have slowed down his economy quite a bit. You know, because he could have had already 17, 18, 19 probes over there in the natural, so he definitely wants to do something more with this Blink than just defend.
I mean, we heard a load up there for a second. I think everyone was just going to the bunker, actually, and just make sure that everything is totally all right at the front. But their Stalkers haven't been really that aggressive towards the front either. So iaguz, I feel he's a little bit in the dark at the moment as to what's going on, despite his anticipation of what could occur.
Yeah, he doesn't know, but I think he had the right idea behind it. MaNa, of course, has to always worry about Wither Mines. This is one of those moments where we have full vision of the Terran. We're like, oh, cool, he's not opening up with a mine drop. But if you're MaNa, you're not thinking like, oh, cool, he's not opening up with a mine drop, because before you know it, you've lost half your mineral line. So he's still very paranoid. He's going to see what's going on. I think actually he would like to find a Wither Mine drop, because he knows he would be able to snipe it pretty much immediately with his Stalkers and then be aggressive on the other side of the map. But since like 8 minutes and 30 seconds, any drop should have already been there by now. So he's like, okay, well, this guy's actually not dropping me. I'm gonna get a sentry so I can actually keep units away from my main base, because if he stims up my ramp, that could get very dicey. But this is the first time he's gonna see like, all right, all of his units are at home. Starport is kind of late. Yeah, iaguz was definitely expecting aggressive Blink Stalker by the way, because he's dropping a second bunk.
Yeah, so really well set up to be able to defend anything that will come along. But obviously, MaNa is going to try and exploit this by having his double forge and Robo Bay behind this. And yeah, this is pretty much the kind of fake out. That's huge defense.
Yeah, I really hope he's not going to blink into this. He doesn't really... No, there's no way he's ever going to do that. I'm surprised that he warped in a few more Stalkers there, because Stalkers are pretty expensive units. So warping in these Stalkers is going to slow everything else further down the line a little bit. But he queues up his first Colossus. The Thermal Lens is going to be a little bit later. Once again, it's a double forge follow-up, by the way. So MaNa is going to be like, well, if I want to go up to 3 bases, I need something to defend against 3 bases. Scan being used, he's not going to get the Observer. That's very unfortunate for iaguz.
Yeah, so I guess MaNa was telling a story pretty well there for a small portion of that time. And as I said, behind that, he's transitioning on quite nicely. The drop to the right-hand side that did head on out here for iaguz could potentially do something if the Stalkers were away for the entire time, but they're slowly moving on back. It doesn't look like he's going to bring them all the way back, though.
Yeah, and normally like around 10 minutes and 30 seconds, you want to get those units back, because you know there will be stim, you know there will be a lot of units, and there could be a drop heading towards your main base, no matter what opening the Terran player went for. So MaNa, it would be a smart decision to bring those units back. Because, I mean, he has 2 observers over here, but he doesn't really have anything else. There's no mine in the drop, correct? It's just bio units on the right side? Yes. Yeah,
and with just the Marauder in tow, gonna end up doing quite a little bit of damage here. As if you could bring down the photon cannon, that would be very nice to start things off. Make sure that if this position is gonna lose a little bit more mining time. Gets himself some probes as well, so good pickups.
I'd be very satisfied with this if I was iaguz. Gets 4, 5, 6 probes maybe.
Wow.
And he forced out a photon over. Just gets 6 workers over here with a single medevac drop. 10 minutes into the game, and now I don't think he should be stopped. Well, he can actually pick up this gateway, but don't overly commit. Don't try to drop into the main base. Just go up to 3 command centers on the other side of the map. Exactly what he's doing. I love this a lot. Like, this is not a game where you want to get Rex number 4 and 5 before command center number 3, because Protoss is going to be stuck on 2 bases for a while. It's very hard to drop him. Just focus on your economy. You know, I've said it in this other day, I've underestimated iaguz in the past, but he's playing extremely solid so far. I gotta give it to Pig. Pig said like, well, I actually think iaguz is gonna do very well against MaNa. I was like, I don't know, Piggy, but Piggy was right.
Yeah, it seems so at the moment. He's doing pretty well himself. For now, the armory is being added on behind here for iaguz, so you can get up in the upgrades. And we have a few more Vikings now being sprinkled in after seeing that there was the extent of Colossi at the front. So he's got to take these precautions. He slowed his opponents down, but third base down for quite a little while. But all of this has been spotted by MaNa on the other side, so he knows how his opponent's doing economically as well.
It seems like he did get his 4th and 5th Rex, by the way, before the command center. It doesn't change that much, but it changes things a little bit. So I think iaguz could have gone to 3 bases a little bit quicker maybe than he actually went. I kind of missed that. Unfortunately, not in the game right now, because we were worried that we may slow down the game again. But overall, it's still looking pretty damn healthy for iaguz. Like, I like his position. He's having an army supply lead. Of course, MaNa does have the double forge going for himself. That's very nice. But that Nexus is late, and he lost 6-7 workers. Opened up with quite a few Blink Stalkers. Didn't really get a whole lot done with it. Like, if I was iaguz, I'd be quite pleased with this game so far.
Now, with how the game plays out in the next 3 or 4 minutes or so, can it be difficult here for a Protoss to hold on at this third base? Because it is quite an open position.
Yes, it definitely can be, especially because you're always still worried about the drop as well. So often you leave a few units in your main.
Yeah.
And if then everything just comes on one side, and sometimes your units can be out of position. Look at the amount of Stalkers that MaNa has. He has so many Stalkers. That will, of course, be great to deal with drops. But in a straight-up fight, like, it's only the Colossus that deal damage. But 4 Colossus, you gotta respect 4 Colossus. So he doesn't want to go for it.
Yeah, especially when he has 4 Vikings. He did actually add on the second starport, but they haven't been too eager about making Vikings there. So a slight slip up from iaguz, but he's spending money elsewhere, to be honest.
This is so risky. Like, I can understand. He kind of feels like, all right, I want to see if I can make something happen. But MaNa has excellent pylon spread. He has a few observers out on the map as well. You really shouldn't do this. Not against so many Blink Stalkers. And I'm glad iaguz is realizing, like, all right, I could be stubborn over here. I could fly over these pylons and, go for the Hail Mary of Terran plays. But let's just not do it.
And he's actually going to be supply blocked here as MaNa for a little while. So once iaguz maxes out and gets himself a few more Vikings on the field, this will slow down MaNa a little bit. Of course, there is the potential that iaguz doesn't go straight with that max out because he's maybe a little bit apprehensive as to where MaNa is right now. But yeah, he has hit that supply block hard.
Yeah, he's been making a few uncharacteristic mistakes so far. A few supply blocks, a few times his units have been poorly positioned. Not necessarily in this game, but even in the previous game he's been supply blocked. And iaguz is showing us he's not a Terran player that you want to make too many mistakes against. iaguz is maxed out right now, and he only has 10 Vikings. That's not really the max out that you want to go for. Of course, it's very hard, because he was hoping to go for a drop and then trade out some bio units and free up supply for more Vikings. I'm not sure. I don't think he has the Viking numbers, but he does have a crazy amount of bio units.
Yeah, there's not that many Zealots either. Once they actually get killed off, I wonder if he can push forwards with the bio, but the Colossi have survived for quite a long time. Extra Warpins at the front as well will tank this up, and the 4 Colossi were not dealt with because he just didn't have all his Vikings there, even though he had like too few numbers.
Yeah, he didn't have too many, and most of them were not even there just yet. The Widowmine somehow sneaked behind the middle line. I don't think that MaNa realized this.
Yeah.
It's not something that you pay attention to when you're fighting a maxed out Terran army. So these mines are going to shoot again and probably get 5 probes over here, 6 even.
Nice stuff. I mean, with how he's set up back at home, and now that he's going to have even more Viking numbers, he had the better economy to start off, so he can replenish really, really fast here against MaNa.
Yeah, and losing that fight, I say quote-unquote losing, because I think like it was unfavorable when it comes to resources, but he's richer, and his next army, the next time that iaguz is going to be maxed out in this game, it's going to be a lot stronger. Before he was maxed out on pure bio, and unless your name is Maru, you're going to have a pretty hard time against 4 Colossus. I think even Maru would have had a very difficult time there. But the next max out, I think he's going to have way more Vikings. He's going to have a couple of ghosts in the mix as well. MaNa is definitely fighting an uphill battle over here.
Imagine if he hit the timing before Storm. I mean, he's not looking that aggressive, so it probably won't come along. But if he did, he would absolutely destroy what MaNa has at the moment. He has a better Viking count now by the looks of things.
If that would somehow happen, if they could fight right before Storm is ready. I mean, there are 5 ghosts anyway, because only 2 High Templars. I don't think MaNa's going to be able to keep this fort base alive, but I don't think that should be his biggest concern in this game. We all know, as soon as Protoss player is maxed out, as soon as it's on 200 supply, you got 3 upgrades, you got Colossus and High Templars, you are always still in this game, because just one bad engagement for the Terran, and it can all come crumbling down.
Didn't even feel like he had to stim up there for that 4th base. That was easy pickings. There was a small task force at the back actually left alone there. But still, his army is very, very powerful. 30 supply up against the Protoss at the moment. Protoss needs to spread out their Colossi a little bit, as well as get a bit of a better arc. I'm not sure he has that many Zealots with this, though. At 20, that's quite a few, but can they be able to power on through?
EMP connects with the first 2 High Templars, and the other High Templars don't have enough energy yet. Yeah, they do, and these storms do connect with a lot of units. So I think in the end, MaNa is going to be fine over here, and he does crush this Terran army.
Yes, he does. Focusing it all the way back. This, another small force, I think that was the task force that I was speaking about before, that didn't really want to rendezvous with this army too quickly. Chasing pretty far back here. Gonna turn around for the fight.
I think it should be enough. He has a couple of Zealots to absorb quite a bit of damage. Forward Blink could maybe catch one of these medevacs, but overall MaNa did so well there. Even though his first 2 High Templars got EMP'd, He still had 2 more storms left, and a lot of those units were extremely clumped up for iaguz, and most of the Vikings were again just falling like flies. Like, one of the things that I think MaNa really excels at in this matchup is always shooting down the Vikings, never really overkilling, but still making sure that his Stalkers are not wasting DPS on Marauders and Marines that are being healed, but always take care of the Viking numbers. And, you know, if a Protoss player takes care of all the Vikings and the Colossus are still alive, well, that's something we've learned since the very early days of Wings of Liberty. Most of the time, you're going to do fine in the battles.
Yeah, gotta completely agree with your assessment there on him being able to take down the Vikings. I remember back when him and Hasuobs on Mouse Sports, and they would always really kind of prioritize things like that on maps like Cloud Kingdom all the way back then, and you know, those skills don't really just disappear. So MaNa's been on top of it. That being said, iaguz is still macroing away, and somehow he's caught up once again in supply, but despite being down, because that 4th base has done work for him.
I'm a little bit worried though. Like, I think iaguz is a very solid Terran player, and I think especially in the first 15 minutes of this game, he has an excellent understanding of the game. He seems to be reading it quite well, has great game sense, but I'm not sure how well he's going to do against a maxed out Protoss player with 3/3 upgrades, Storm and Colossus. I think iaguz has been quite vocal about it, that he doesn't like this phase in the game, and that's the reason why he's been often SCV putting, because he wants to prevent playing against Protoss when they have both Storm and Colossus and 4 bases and all the upgrades in the world. But, you know, maybe he can surprise us once more.
I mean, you especially don't want to be going up against MaNa when a storm's like that hit. That's a lot of extra damage, and iaguz completely abandoned his army, his post in the middle of this map, and as much as he's killed off all the Zealots at the front, I mean, nothing died.
There again, 7, 8, 9 Vikings just disappeared. 3 Colossus, all low on HP, or at least one of them extremely low, and 2 have taken quite a bit of damage, but they're all alive. Like, if he would have focused fight better there, he takes out 2 Colossus. That's still not great, but that's at least something. Now, instead of having to worry about 2 Colossus, there are 4 Colossus at your front door, and 4 Colossus flanking with Marauders. It's almost impossible.
This is going to get a bit scary now for iaguz, because he is, I think, a second Robo finish behind this as well, so he's going to have double Colossus production if he really wants it to combat against what we're seeing here with the Viking numbers. He also needs to replenish, you know, extra ghosts if they end up going down as well. It's all very, very expensive for a Terran at this point.
Yeah, you're living the good life as a Protoss player when you're warping in your second Robo. You're like, yep, I've got money.
Plenty of it. Well, another base is actually down here, and he spots it just as it is shown here. So thank you very much, Funker. The eyes of the observer are strong in this one.
Funka sees everything.
He does, he does.
Sometimes when I do something embarrassing and I say to myself, I hope no one saw that, Funka's around the corner, he saw it.
Oh, another storm does drop on this army, and iaguz needs to get out of there very, very quickly. These storms are not going to stop. I don't think he has much more energy, as there's 2 High Templars at the back that have enough for it, and it never ends. Oh, so much damage being done to this Terran.
Very stormy indeed, Clara. iaguz is going to try to pick up a couple units and get out of there, but that was an overwhelming victory for MaNa. Just not a good start of that engagement for iaguz. He was eating a lot of storms, and I think, you know, it was a good play by MaNa as well to put 2 High Templars in the Warp Prism. I'll load them. That's something that's,
there you go.
You know, that looks easier than it is. Whenever I do it, my storms never sync up with the rest of my army. But that was very well done. MaNa was in a very difficult position here on Vani, but he was able to climb his way back into the game and even things up.
I can imagine it's always sunny in Australia, so he's not particularly used to the storms, as MaNa does reveal that, as he is from Europe, and there's plenty of storms here, my friend, plenty of storms.
I've noticed. It's been very cloudy over the last few days in Cologne.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. It never ends. And actually, Cologne's really weird. One half an hour it can be sunny. The next half an hour it's just actually a thunderstorm. It's insane here. But iaguz feels the wrath of that here in Europe.
Well, it's an unfortunate game though for iaguz, because he's probably looking at it. He's like, man, I had a great read on this game. I switched up my build and I felt everything was going well for me. You know, and he was in a good position. He was like that gateway from the low ground. I just think the first time he was maxed out, like I don't think he wanted to be maxed out on that army. It's more just like he was looking for drops and he was following what, you know, I was talking about as well. So I can't criticize him for that. But you don't want to drop just for the sake of dropping when you're not going to do any damage and you're just losing units. But at the same time, you also don't want to be maxed out on the army. You know, 200 supply, but you only have 6 Vikings. That's just not enough. Like, you can't attack into a Protoss play that has 4 Colossus, and when you have 6 Vikings, of which 2 are, I think, still in transit from the north side of the map. So the first max out was just not good enough for iaguz, and that allowed MaNa to get back into this game.
All right, and now that puts MaNa in a pretty good position to kind of get this recovery, obviously. And iaguz, you know, if he needs to, I think I've got to agree with what you were saying before. I think he kind of needs to end these games earlier. because MaNa looked really, really formidable, even despite, having some damage being done to him throughout that game. And then obviously the first max out looked a bit scary, but it all just didn't line up. It didn't line up here for iaguz.
No, and I also wonder how often does iaguz really practice the super late game against Protoss and against the Protoss players that he plays against. Like, are they as good as MaNa? Because there are not a whole lot of Protoss players in North America that will control a maxed out Protoss army the same way as MaNa does. Now, of course, iaguz did spend quite a bit of time in the root house, and the server or the ping to the Korean server from California is not bad.
Okay.
So there's a good chance he's practicing quite a bit on Korea, but still, I don't feel like that is the phase in the game where he excels. And I think if iaguz wants to win game number 3, it's going to have to happen in a short and rapid game. Below 15 minutes.
Below 15 minutes, iaguz. Aim for it. Throw your axe at that. See how it goes. As we have spawning down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss. Representing Team Liquid, it is MaNa. And up to the top left-hand corner, winning game number 1, but unfortunately not able to round it out in game 2. Can it go all the way? It is Root iaguz.
Coda, of course, an excellent map for Reapers, something that we have mentioned very often. I wouldn't be surprised to see iaguz fall back to the build that he uses by far and away the most in his matchup, and that's Reaper into command center on the low ground, into a factory, follow up, and then try to do some damage. Why is that pylon so late of MaNa? Look at that. Is he going
to go gateway?
Yeah, he's actually going to tank gate.
Whoa.
Maybe anticipating a command center first?
Maybe.
Doing his homework. Cheeky MaNa.
Well, it's Barracks. Well, but yeah, it's an interesting thought. It is an interesting thought.
Could, of course, still be maybe a proxy second pylon into a Stargate. MaNa was one of the very first Protoss players to ever do that, by the way. Like, then he proxied the second pylon, and that was the proxy Stargate. And I was looking at one of his games, and I was like, man, his Stargate is so quick. And then I looked at it, it's like, that's his second pylon? Oh my god. And like, I remember he was like kind of joking about it, how incredibly cheesy and, well, very powerful it can be. Well, there goes that second assimilator, so there's a very good chance that we'll see an early Stargate over here.
All right, so, yeah, that Barracks is about to finish up in a minute. No gas. So he's not going to have, well, he could potentially not have either. Having a Reaper or something like that, if something crazy is going on, is very, very useful. But at the moment, there's no sign of that at all.
No, interesting build order. Kind of expected iaguz to open up with the Reaper over here. So he's been switching it up a lot, and that is good to see. Because you don't want to be that guy that does the one build like 5, 6, 7 times in a row. Well, that pylon does kind of scream Stargate, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So let's see. This SCV is going to head over there now. And I don't think there'll be any unit actually out to really kind of push that away. So if he scouts around everywhere, he might be able to get a little read. Mothership core very, very close to popping out now.
This better be good.
Okay, so he's just gonna open up with a Mothership core. He keeps everyone on gas. He could still drop a Nexus like pretty early on, but then I'm just so surprised to see him open up with the 10 gate. The Mothership core can get some good scouting done, of course, because it's out a lot quicker, because he opened up with a 10 gate, has a quicker Cyber core, and he's gonna have a quicker Mothership core. He's gonna follow it up with a Stalker right now. So maybe he's gonna hope that there is no bunker, but iaguz is gonna drop the bunker over here. I mean, the Stalker also delays the Nexus. I'm a little bit surprised. Or maybe it's just because he saw the SCV over here. He's like, well, I'm not going to be able to drop the Nexus even if I want to. It's still going to be a Stargate. Not as quick as I thought it was going to be, but it will still be a Stargate. Very interesting build here by MaNa, because look at the clock, Laras. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, no Nexus. That only happens in mine ladder games. That's because I'm a dirty Protoss.
Wow. Well, he cleans up that SCV down to the bottom as well, so iaguz is going to be quite in the dark. That probe could have easily been trying to go down and throw a Nexus there if the gas had been splintered elsewhere, but I think iaguz is proficient enough to understand that, you know, there was quite a bit of gas that can come in. Obviously, a lot of that was going into that Mothership core as well as the Stalker, but where was the rest?
Is this going to be maybe a one-base play for a very long amount of time? Maybe he's going to open up with an Oracle and then follow up with a Twilight Console into Blink and some sort of crazy contain. Like, I saw Son do a ridiculous build once where he just kind of tried to keep the Terran.
Oh, yeah.
You know, force him to lift off this command center and then just keep him on one base forever. 2 more Rexes going down after the factory is already finished up, so he's going to get a defensive Widow Mine. You know, this is the type of build that MaNa can really, really, really not afford to lose that Oracle against the Widow Mine. If that happens, that would be an absolute disaster. because this Nexus is so late. Like a 5-minute, 40-second Nexus. I'm a little bit confused about this build. This doesn't feel very MaNa-ish to me.
No, you're right about him being able to get a lead from there. Obviously, double SCVs coming in while that next.
Where's that first Widow? My MaNa has to be so careful.
I'm always scared if it's behind refineries, but it wasn't. It was behind the command center, and he would have actually got it if it had been behind the refinery. I love behind the refinery, by the way. It's the best spot ever.
That's so, James.
Yes. So don't play me. Although you probably destroy me, so actually you probably can play me.
I don't think we'll run into each other on ladder, James.
Probably not. All right, so gonna skirt around again, see if we can get any more SCVs. At least forcing the evacuation off the mineral line does deny a bit of mining time here for iaguz.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad. He got 4 SCVs in the end, and he kept the Oracle alive. That's by far and away the most important thing for MaNa over here. Like, if he would have lost that Oracle, that would have been absolutely disastrous. That did not happen. He picked off a couple of SCVs. He is almost, he's almost on 2 bases himself right now, so he can start producing 2 probes at a time. The work account, 31 against 28. It's not horrible, but the follow-up tech for MaNa is still going to be quite late. Just now the Twilight Console is halfway done. Okay, he does have a Robo. He's going to start his first observer, so I guess it's not all that bad. I don't think it's truly what he hoped for. I think there are certain scenarios that this would have played out a lot better for MaNa, where he would have killed either more SCVs, maybe no bunkers, so he could have started poking with the Mothership Core and the Stalker. But I guess just not slacking on those jobs, realizing that, hey, this opening of him, well, it was a little different. That Nexus was a lot later, he's been mining a lot of gas. Let's not play Starborn, let's not play, cut any corners over here, and let's just play it safe. And, other than losing those few SCVs against that Oracle, he hasn't really made any mistakes whatsoever.
iaguz just heading on his starport now, and MaNa likewise back at home with that Robo Bay and Blink on the way. I'm loving the little perimeter setup here from iaguz. If that Oracle gets a bit more feisty, he is going to die off. So need to keep that just on the very edges now. Maybe dive into the third or try and wiggle around any kind of alternate angle, but going straight on in, you are going to die.
I think it's really funny because when you look at Protoss players, they either love the Oracle or they hate it. There isn't really an in-between, because some people, they're just so damn good at always keeping that Oracle alive. We saw Trap back then at
Wing Commander.
That was just ridiculous, how much he got done with a single Oracle. And MaNa has been doing very good job so far as well, not losing the Oracle. And then you got the other Protoss players that just like, it doesn't matter where you fly. Like, your Oracle is just a magnet for Widow Mines. It's just like, it doesn't matter where it is. Like, in the middle of the map, sure, there's a Widow Mine. It's just like, I can't stand this unit. Every single time I make it, it dies immediately. MaNa has not made that mistake. He's been supply blocked again for a few seconds here and there. But other than that, he's been doing a good job.
Yep. Can't really find any more angles himself, Observer. Obviously giving him tips as to what is going on at the front. Double Forge about to finish up, and this probe moving up to the right-hand side here. Maybe for pylons, just in case he's actually going to get the opportunity to try and drop here. Nice to be able to spot something like that, but also can be perfectly used for the counter-attack potential.
Yeah, and this is that moment where you can start dropping Revelation on the army, and that's going to make MaNa's army a little bit it's going to make his life a little bit easier, because if you look at the army supply right now, 30 against 57, those are not numbers that you want to see yourself being caught out of position, and that's not going to happen when you have vision of this army all the time. MaNa again, double Forge as well. That's 3 games in a row he's going to be going double Forge. I wouldn't really say it's the standard right now in this matchup. Of course, it's something that's always been around, or at least for a very long time, and sometimes it's been very popular. Lately, I've seen it a tiny bit more, but I'm very surprised to see double Forge 3 games in a row.
That poor Marine just skirted the edge of that probe, and it was in iaguz's vision for about half a second on his mini-map, and it was a very small dot. So unfortunate there for iaguz not to be able to pick that up. And his drop isn't going to do anything at all. Good deflection.
Yeah, throughout the entire series, we have to say that. Of course, whenever you're on 2 bases, you're not supposed to take any damage off drops, but it's still easy to make a mistake, especially when you're playing in WCS. Lots of nerves, there are lots of people watching, but MaNa has not made a single mistake when it comes to deflecting drops.
All right, so just a bit of a slower pace to this game. One Zealot actually gets walked in up to the top right-hand corner to start harassing this, and he has slowed this pace down quite considerably, so that's a nice pickup there for MaNa.
Yeah, those things are very nice, especially when you're a double Forge player yourself. It's not going to be easy for you to go up to 3 bases, so if you can slow the Terran economy down on the other side of the map, even if it's just for 20 seconds, those are all small victories that will add up in the long run.
I love how that probe is just so reluctant to move away from the pylon up to the top. It's like, well, just in case this gets spotted. Right now, it hasn't been spotted. I'll just leave it here and just shy away from actually doing any moving at all.
Okay, it seems like iaguz is like, he's had enough and he's going to try to do something very risky. That Oracle is almost, well, it's kind of on patrol, I believe, on the outside of this base. If he drops everything in the main base right now, did MaNa still leave his Stalkers over there, or the Stalkers in the natural? Where? Okay, they're kind of in between. But there is a cannon, there is a photon overcharge. It's very hard to drop MaNa, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's been really, really well locked down.
If he stims forward, he could theoretically maybe get this next, but it's very risky with the Colossus over here as well, and these Blink Stalkers, a couple of forces go down. I believe only a single Marine, and this is really good play by iaguz, because now he saw how far that army was out of position, and he's just going to unload everything into the main base. Well, almost everything. He kind of used stop, so a couple units are not shooting at his Nexus. Does he have enough damage to get it?
Oh, he's trying his best he can. He's going to sacrifice a lot for this. I don't think he's going to get it. It's so close to the end, and he manages to pick it up. Great stuff there by iaguz, but he lost a huge army.
At what cost, Kalaris? Let's take a look at the unit loss resource tab.
Oh, jeez.
That was an expensive Nexus snipe.
Yeah, that was. That wasn't quite Pol-esque Nexus sniping level, but, I mean, yes, it died, but a lot died for it.
Yeah, he had a lot of Marines, and Marines, of course, are great in dealing with Zealots and stuff. Those Widow Mines, by the way, if MaNa transfers most of his probes that are like... Okay, well, I think MaNa's on top of that, so he's not going to send all of his probes over there. MaNa's going to try to counterattack. I'm not sure how many Vikings we're currently looking at. A counterattack is always a little bit risky, though. Like, he did kill a lot of bio, but this is also a big commitment for MaNa. Like, now he's standing all the way on the other side of the map. One Widow Mine. Well, I mean, there's a cannon there.
For iaguz, surely there has to be a good flank or something like that. It's 2 Vikings versus 4 Colossi.
Oh, there's no Zealots over here.
The flank from the back here. He's going to try and come in. He knows he had no Vikings for this. And this is a perfect little engagement here for iaguz to rip apart this army. He knew the counter-attack was going to come off the Nexus snipe. Brilliantly well engaged there from iaguz. He knows it. Look at him as he has taken a full confidence lead here. Massive lead in this game.
That was extremely well done by iaguz, but again, we can fault MaNa a little bit for that as well. He's walking so far into enemy territory while having no Zealots, and the closest pylon to reinforce was all the way down the right side. So normally, you know, you still have a pylon behind you, you wipe in a few Zealots, you can fall back. Oh my god, this Widowmine is actually going to get a good shot off there as well. Wow, our Australian Terran, every single time. I don't think he's going to do it. He's going to do it again. It's just the first series of the day, of course. But right now, he has taken an absolutely commanding lead in this game.
Now he's just going to push on for victory. I mean, how is MaNa going to be able to slow this down? I think he has, what, 1 Colossus at the moment? Not much. Oh, 2, okay. Not much more than that. The Bioforce alone, with only 6 Zealots to be able to counteract the movement forwards. What?
Force Field is the only tiny chance over here for MaNa, but iaguz is going to have to make a very serious throw, much bigger than in game number 1 to somehow end up losing this. He could pick up a few medevacs, he could drop him in the main base. MaNa only has 66 army supply right now. It's borderline impossible for him to have units in the main base defending against drops and still having a main army. That should actually be respected.
Slow and patient here from iaguz. Blinks forwards here with the Stalkers. Does MaNa, even if he trades out, it doesn't really matter too much because there's another army at the front and he's maxed out, going towards the 3rd base, trying to get that, killing the Mothership core before it's able to get any photon overcharge down anywhere, or a Time Warp if it was to be used in the engagement. And there's even some Marines still back here as well, so they're going to buy a little bit of time. The Nexus has fallen, the economy is totally crushed here for MaNa.
I'm very well played by iaguz. He's maxed out right now. That wasn't easy, you know, that Nexus snipe, but of course, I mean, you could always, there will always be people looking very critical at this game. It's like, well, iaguz didn't play all that well. I think MaNa just played very poor, but it goes 2 ways, right? Like, if one player does things right, then he's also sort of forcing your opponent into mistakes. So there was many ways to look at a game of StarCraft II, but you know, he's in a phenomenal position right now. He's still up 50 army supplies, just sniped that 3rd base again. His upgrades are not great. They're like only going up to 2-2 right now, while MaNa's already been on 2-2 and he's getting a 4th base. But you know, he has so much. I would like to just see him go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, and there's plenty of merit on an opportunistic player to jump on these things. 11 Vikings against 4.
Just straight out Vikings for Colossus, and then like you can always fall back again if you want to.
Yeah, the Gateway Force is really not that big here for MaNa at all. He's going to try and split this up with force fields, but I think that's hurting his own Zealots to try and even go further. They already evaporated anyway. This Bioforce is going to crush through what remains. I think he's actually done a really great job of focusing down the Vikings, so commendable performance for MaNa to try and hold on, but the Bio Force is way too much here for
Yeah,
iaguz.
there's still a lot of Marauders over here. He's wiping in a few Zealots, but these Zealots, they don't have charge, so they're not very good. That Nexus is going to fall. The majority of these probes are going to fall as well. And MaNa should know that the writing is on the wall for this one. It's just the first series of the day, so plenty of hope left for him. But iaguz, once more, wins his first best of 3 in Premier League over here when it comes to this group today, and that is very impressive.
GG iaguz, well played. As he takes the series 2-1 there. And as I said before, really, really good stuff to identify exactly how he had to counteract that counter, basically. Just go for that flank, make sure you're well set up. And MaNa didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter how many Marines or Marauders you may have, because if there are 4 Colossus and a few force fields, it can be very difficult to engage. But he unloaded those units over there on the south side of MaNa's army, went for that surround, and MaNa's reinforcement pylon just being too far away to the right side. Well, I guess he just did not expect iaguz to have that many units after he just sacrificed so much into the main base, but you know, very well done by iaguz. That was the perfect way to engage that Colossus army, and very similar to what we saw on Echo, where MaNa also counterattacked, was also in a good position, and also left his units a little bit too exposed. Game 1 and 3 were very identical in that way.
Yes, they were. So really good play there by iaguz to be able to advance on. MaNa has been in these situations before where he has fallen down to the loser's game, and we'll try and battle on back there, that's for sure. But for now, we're going to go over to the analysis desk with Mr. Sean Apollo Clark, and obviously the winner is iaguz.
Thank you very much, Colaris and Rotterdam. Congratulations, iaguz. I know Maynard at home right now, sipping his whiskey, enjoying this moment. A nice win for you. Good start to the day.
Yeah, can't be upset with, you know, a win. But I'm not through the group yet. I mean, last time I was in WCS, I won the first match against the Protoss, and then it kind of went a bit...
Yeah, actually, that's funny you bring that up. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, the first question here. When you did play last season, the first game was 2-0 against Max Edge, then went on to Wellmu, and then Max Ed again, and unfortunately you were eliminated from the group. Was there a mistake that you made there that could help you on not having that happen again today, or...?
Well, not really, because MaNa doesn't play Phoenix Colossus.
That's just it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations, first place finisher, iaguz.
I'm not yet. Not yet, Apollo.
Another question for you here. Game 1, you took the fight on the third base, and there was off camera, it wasn't actually seen on stream, it was a big nod of the head, it was a good yes, and you did it again here. How do you control your adrenaline, you know, to keep it on a low down, not, you know, to prevent mistakes from happening, as we've seen players get, you know, caught up in the moment and have games slip away?
Yeah, I don't really know. I think it just comes down to experience. Once you've played enough tournament games, you just don't care as much. Well, no, you do care, but you don't. You kind of know how to control your brain a bit better.
All right, thanks, Pick.
I just wanted to have a few questions about those games. And
Oh, sure,
what
go
impressed
ahead.
me the most was how you played a very, I think, a different style to the sort of SCV pools and things. You've been quite vocal about how they're not really working anymore.
Yeah, they totally suck. Don't do them. Don't do them, really.
Some advice from a master here. So tell us, you did a very defensive style. You didn't get too carried away with the crazy multi-prong. I've noticed a lot of other Terran players trying to emulate Maru. They're trying to drop Marauders on Colossus, but you kind of stuck with the style which works for you. Can you tell us just about that?
Well, I mostly just played defensive games this series because MaNa is he's kind of a trickster Protoss, so he's always going to try and do something, like, cute. So I just felt that if I responded properly, I'd be ahead and wouldn't have to risk losing full metavacs to Blink Stalkers.
Some old school classic strong macro play. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah, pretty much.
So on of course, Varney, things didn't go your way. And there was one moment where you went dancing in the rain of storms, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, once he has 4 bases and storms, Terran just lose. I was just hitting
Kind of
buttons.
sounds like what we were saying over there as well.
Yeah, well, you're right. You're very smart, Apollo.
Well, you still played very, very well in these other games, and you were kind of pressuring, dictating the pace, and so on. You did see, interestingly, in game 1, you went for a Widow Mine drop. You spotted a pylon in a very suspicious location, and you immediately kind of cancelled it and just dropped the Widow Mines out, went to kill the pylon. What was running through your head at that moment?
Well, I knew he had a Twilight Council, so he's either going for like Blink Stalker or DT, and I saw like a pylon at like a funny timing, and it's like, all right, we'll put the mines down, maybe a Stalker will walk into it. And then he just went DT, so it didn't do anything.
And
I should have dropped, actually.
Absolutely perfect response. So fantastic.
No, I should have dropped. It wasn't perfect.
No.
It wasn't perfect.
But if you didn't kill that pylon, then I guess the DTs could have come in. So
Oh, yeah.
do you feel like if you just went and dropped, and then the DTs kind of were going to be denied anyway, it worked
Well,
out?
the
Or do you
mines-
think playing the safer option was maybe better because you didn't have the knowledge?
Yeah, I just felt like, okay, he's doing something, just defend, and we'll win in a macro game.
Well, very well
That
played.
happened.
Thank you so
I'm quite
much.
pleased.
Very well played.
Final question from me then. Was there a lot of specific preparation that came into today's group for you?
Just laddering a lot of EU ladder and hoping they didn't know which one's my barcode.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, first game of the evening goes to iaguz. He's going to be going forward to the winners match. And I hope personally we get another interview with you a little bit later on. Best of luck in the next game. Let's take a quick look at the bracket and we'll see exactly where we are and have a look, if you haven't seen already, the next game that's going to be coming up here on the main stream. iaguz goes through to the winners match. Next up is going to be the Canadian Massa going up against the Frenchman Firecake. Currently, France have 2 out of 2 players qualified for the season finals. Can they make it a third today? We'll find out right after this break.